Mr. Doggett, you're recognized for 5 minutes to speak on your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last month, the committee voted along party lines to block my request and to cover up President Trump's tax returns. This is an effort to give the committee another opportunity to consider the intervening events since that vote was taken and to incorporate a request regarding President Trump's tax returns into this legislation. Since we considered the matter last month, our colleague Mr. Pascrell, who I know will want to speak separately on this amendment, has sent a second letter to you, Mr. Chairman, urging the committee to use its authority under current law to obtain a copy of the tax return and to review it in closed executive session. Mr. Pascrell's request was signed by 165 members of this House and has for the first time had 2 Republicans step forward to join Mr. Sanford and Mr. Jones. In the intervening period since we considered this matter, the need for Mr. Trump's tax returns has become more urgent. His tax returns could reveal Russian entanglements. Every new revelation about Russian contacts, including meetings with the Russian ambassador by Attorney General Sessions, heightens the need to see the returns. I will admit that we Democrats have perhaps approached this in the wrong direction, that we've gotten it backwards. The question we should have been asking from the outset, to make it easy, is will any Trump campaign surrogate who did not meet with the Russians please raise your hand? Because this keeps coming out week after week with revelation after revelation. It just is not sufficient to say there's nothing to see here. First it was Paul Manafort, then ousted National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, now the Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who met with the Russian ambassador at the Republican National Convention, Jared Kushner, who joined Flynn for one meeting. If there's nothing to see here, President Trump, then we need to see the tax return. President Trump said at a press conference last month that he has no deals with Russia. While that may or may not be true right now, he may never have been able to close a real estate deal in Russia. We can take him at his own word in his meeting on the David Letterman show in 2013 when he said, quote, "Well, I've done a lot of business with the Russians. They're smart and they're tough." I'd certainly agree with him on the tough part. Or you can take the word of his son, Donald Trump Jr., who in 2008 said, quote, "Russians make up a pretty disproportionate cross-section of our assets." Of course, we don't have any tax return for 2008 or for many other years with which to evaluate to what extent there is that conflict that exists. Accountability ought not to be a partisan issue, and it shouldn't be in this committee. There's no issue more important than assuring the confidence of the American people in our democracy and our systems of checks and balances. That's what this is about. We have a statute that goes back decades that authorizes this committee to take a professional review of all of Mr. Trump's tax returns, and of course it will take professional expertise. This is a president who brags about how he has bent the tax code to his whim in the past, who reportedly for many years didn't pay a penny in taxes. He came off even better than the insurance companies will come off after this title is approved. How did he manage to do that? And what will his tax bill look like if he is now overseeing the Internal Revenue Service and eventually appoints the Internal Revenue Service Commissioner? Will he make a great deal for himself and his family, not available to the rest of the American people? Now, there was a recent analysis by one reporter, a series of reporters, that said that under what they think is in this bill, though they don't have a score and they don't have all the data, that President Trump personally stands to rake in almost $7 million from 2 giant tax breaks that are in this bill. And as we get to the tanning salon section, we can explore whether there's one of those down at Mar-a-Lago or one of his other resorts, and he's going to benefit even from the tanning provisions here. but at least from two giant tax breaks, at least near $7 million. And so I think it's important to adopt this amendment. I know Mr. Pascrell has further relevant comments on it, and I'll let him use his own time to discuss them. I yield back.
Thank you. Does the gentleman insist on his point of order?
Well, Mr. Pascrell, I know.
Excuse me, does the gentleman insist on his point of order?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I make a point of order to the amendment because it is not germane to the amendment in the nature of the substitute. The amendment violates House Rule 16, Clause 7, because the amendment to Section 6103 of the Tax Code regarding confidentiality of tax returns is outside the narrow subject matter of this subtitle, which only addresses enumeration.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Does the gentleman offering the amendment wish to speak on the point of order?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to speak on the point of order, but would yield a part of my time to speak on the point of order to Mr. Pascrell,
Gentleman controls the time.
who authored these letters that have been sent to you. Mr. Pascrell?
Mr.